In the time that I've been making videos and building up my YouTube channel, I have to admit that I've been coming across many people from different walks of life. And when you're the type of person who has thousands, tens of thousands of people listening to what you have to say, that's inevitably just going to be something that accompanies the responsibilities of being a YouTube content creator. I've come across fans, I've come across all sorts of different people, sometimes from different parts of the world. Some people who really weren't fans of what I had to say. Yeah, in just 2 years, I have come across thousands and thousands of people, and I've had practically thousands of fans too. But none of that is anything like developing a personal relationship with people that you've been acquainted with for a very, very long time. Almost as long as the time that you've been doing this whole YouTube shtick. And that speaks to me truthfully with 2 people in particular, Leah and Emmely, otherwise known as Artistic Passion and Mint Heart. Those 2 silly little girls that I started hanging out with frequently eventually became really, really big parts of my life. I still have no idea what it was that brought me to them. Luck, destiny, divine providence, or something else. Well, whatever it was, as I started spending more and more time with them, and as my relationship with those 2 continued to grow and grow and grow, I could honestly care less about what exactly it was that brought me to them. I'm just so thankful that it did. It feels like so far that both of them need me in their lives. Someone that they could lean on to, someone they could always look up to make them feel better, someone who can comfort them whenever they feel bad. I started hearing from Mint Heart after my Golden Fox thing, and ever since then she just kind of stuck around. She started thinking of me as someone that makes them laugh, makes them feel happy and all warm inside. I'm not sure what it was, but I guess we kind of connected through her Google Plus stuff. She was always putting something up, and I was always waiting and looking forward to the next Google Plus thing that she would put out. And she would usually include me in it. She would always put some nice stuff up, and she would also make some cute little things to honor the friendship that we were starting to develop. I still remember this one time she said that she had to pick several people to live in a house with her, and she picked me to live with her. And she even set up her own main 6, and she thought of me as Pinkie Pie. Oh, what a coincidence. Yeah. Oh man, I was always playing around with her, doing silly things, and oh man, you'd swear she is the most bubbly and optimistic person in the world that I've ever met. As time went by, she started putting out less happy Google Plus stuff. I started spending more time with her personally through Google Plus, and I would learn about a lot of things that she's been through. She kind of just fell out of her relationship with her father because he left. She hasn't had the best relationships with her family, and she's lost a couple of friends too. Well, I don't really want to talk about that. Sometimes she was saying that she just couldn't take it anymore. She just wanted it to be over. She would say that she was going to leave Google Plus, and I would always do everything that I could to encourage her to stay. And sometimes she would just break down emotionally. I never really heard her voice. I could only communicate her through her Google Plus. But the tone of what she would post, I could understand what she was feeling and what she was going through. her breakdowns and how she just felt so lonely and empty. I couldn't just let her go through that. I would say everything that would come to my mind, just anything that I could offer to make her feel better. And, well, she's still around, so even at the darkest of times, I'd like to believe that it always worked in some way. It's really hard to describe the kind of thing that the two of us were going through at the time, because even for just a year ago, it just felt like so long ago. Sometimes I would really anticipate what she was going to post next on Google+. Sometimes it would be out of nowhere or immediately as I was expecting. I was kind of worried about her. I would worry for her whether she was getting into a fight with friends or getting into trouble at school, and there was this one time where I really, really got scared for her. I still remember I was going through my insomnia. I was up late playing the Order 1886 on the PS4. Oh, don't worry, I didn't spend any money on that piece of shit. I was just borrowing it. And then, at one point, I got a Google Plus update from her. She was saying, or she was spelling out about how she was worried about the possibility that she was gonna die. I had no idea what the hell was going on, but I was scared. Very scared. I just kept waiting and waiting for her to respond to my comment. I was trying to find out what was going on. What was she in danger of? All she told me was that she was expecting an earthquake by where she was living, and she wanted me to know that she loved me. And I started crying. I told her that I loved her too. It was the first time that I ever told anyone in the fandom that. I was just trying to figure out where she was at, and she told me that, I don't know, maybe it was in California, I'm not sure what it was, but I immediately looked up where she was, and I was trying to figure out if it was due for an earthquake. And that's when I went onto Skype and started asking people about earthquakes. They told me that where she was living, that earthquakes happen all the time, and I was doing my best to calm myself down, because I really had this way of knowing, despite that, regardless of how worried I was, that nothing bad was going to happen to her, so I did what I could to reassure her, and I helped her to calm down. Since then, we've been talking regularly. She's had a couple of harder times on Google Plus and on her YouTube where she would express her feelings on something, but by and by, we're still in touch. And oh my god, she is so much fun to talk with. She is silly, and she's mischievous too. Like, I remember this time she was talking about how she was playing hooky from school, and she got in trouble for it. Now, granted, she hasn't really been doing any of this since, but it really goes to show how mischievous she was. Man, she was always a very peculiar kind of person, and I'm not sure what it was, but I was always really drawn into that about her. She was always playful, mischievous, trying to be a little bit edgy, but not being too moody or mean. Sometimes she would get a little bit too emotional and say what was on her mind without thinking it, but she would apologize for it. She would recognize when she did something wrong, when she hurt someone's feelings, and she would apologize for it. And I think that's a very noble trait for her to have. And despite all that, she really wasn't any different from anybody who would be nervous or scared about something. I remember she was telling me about how nervous she was about starting high school. And while my experiences in school have been admittedly shit, and I've fucking hated it for years, I didn't want it to be the same thing for her. I wanted her to enjoy herself while still learning something and getting an education. So I would reassure her that everything would be fine. I would tell her to talk to Artistic Passion about it too because she's in high school. Just telling her whatever I could to ease out any kind of stress that she might have been feeling. Whatever high school she's going to, it can't possibly be the same thing as the shitty schools that I've been to. And if you've been keeping up with my confessions, you'd know that I've been to some bad schools. Admittedly, I didn't have the best childhood, and I didn't want her to go through the same bad things that I did. I want her to have fun. I want her to be happy. I want her to have a positive outlook on life. And time and again, she's always been able to express those feelings. And no matter how many times that she's going to have an unoptimistic or sad mood on her Skype, she's still going to be able to do that so many more times. And she's going to keep it that way no matter what. I just know that she is capable of doing so many great things. She just has to believe that she can do it. And even if I don't spend as much time with her as I do Artistic Passion, I still want her to understand that I'll always be there for her whenever I can. Checking up on her, spending time with her, having a fun chat, a fun conversation, playing a silly game, messing around with her, helping her feel better whenever she's sad. You know, just any loving thing that a father would do for his daughter. As for Artistic Passion, I met her through Goldie in a Rift Cafe call, and she was always so bubbly and always so happy to hear me talk with her. A couple of times more, I would see her in the Rift Cafe and we spoke. And in one call, I even sang a song, and she really liked my singing voice. She's been shy around it ever since. And we even learned a couple of things about each other. The first thing I learned about her was that her father passed away in a fire. But she also had a boyfriend, and they were having a really great time together. That is, until it turned out he was a complete fucking shithole. Pashy took the breakup very hard. For the next several months, I was just spending as much time as I could with her to help her cope with the depression, and even a couple of times, Goldie helped me out too. We would stay up with her for several hours into the night, regardless of anyone expecting us to be asleep at that point. I even risked getting in trouble with Mom still being on the desktop at the time. I've talked with her so many times before that breakup, and I've had so many conversations with her to know that she was always so happy. She was always so jumpy and bubbly and optimistic and fun-loving, and she's a really, really feisty trickster. She would usually do things to annoy me just to get a reaction out of it. She'd think it was cute. She still makes fun of how I think of Pinky as my waifu. I would groan about it, and she would have a good laugh. Else more, she would usually play around with me by saying that she had taken my specs, which is my glasses that I need to see better, and I'd have to do some silly stuff in order to get them back. And she would also combo boop me, like she'd go boop. She thinks it's adorable the way that she boops me. I would usually do things to get back at her, though, by calling her cute. She doesn't like being called cute. She'd growl at me. We'd do a little bit of talking that leads into dirty thinking, and she always has a great laugh whenever we talk about something dirty. I guess she's just like that. Oh, and we'd usually have this little thing where she'd crush a water bottle, and I'd go, oh, and I would faint, like, crushing a water bottle is my weakness, and she would usually do it at unexpected moments. I just love it when she does that, like, she always has to use it like it's my kryptonite, and I think it's a funny way of just joking around with her. Yep, that's the kind of stuff we do, among other things, and we always have so much fun when we do it. And A couple of times in the time that I was helping her to get over her stupid boyfriend, she had several depression episodes, and I didn't want that for her. I just wanted her to feel better. I was spending more and more time with her. I can't even think about what it was like the first time she started going through this. She was having some hard times at home with her family because it's become pretty distant after the passing of her dad. And she's also had a couple of hard feelings after the passing of her grandparent and someone named George, who she thought of as an uncle. He was actually there with us at the aquarium. For the time that I knew him, and it was very brief, I cannot believe how much of a really stand-up guy he was. I could understand why it would hit Pashy that hard when he left on. You know, all that time I spent talking about the hardships of my own life, and she has had it so much worse than me. Her heart has been broken. She's been through a lot of untimely deaths, and the only one who was spending time with her to help her feel better, to make her feel like she mattered to someone, was me. I just could never leave her in a state of unhappiness. Even in calls we have now, I don't like to leave her knowing that she's not happy about something. I would always do my best to cheer her up. I would even put on silly voices, and this one time I tried putting a blanket over myself to look like some kind of emperor ghost. I was hoping that it would make her smile, but I guess I was just trying too hard. Eventually, she got over that shitbag of an old boyfriend, and she did find somebody else. Someone who has been really loving towards her, who really cares for her, and I'm so glad that she finally got the courage to move on to somebody else, someone who actually thinks of her as a companion. In the time that I've known Pashy, I have heard so many fun stories from her. There's this one about how she and her mother were passing this very suggestive sign, and they came up with a dirty joke surrounding it, as she has a lot of dirty jokes under her wing, and I've always found it funny when she ends up giving them to me, because she always thinks of something else to make fun of. She keeps her sense of humor fresh and unique, and I've always loved that. She always has a quirky and smart aleck thing for everything that she comes across, and she has something to say about it. And the mouth on her, she is so sweary. It's like she's Ellie from The Last of Us. And I always thought that was adorable, just listening to her being so cheerful with the potty mouth of an adult. I don't know, there was something about it that I always found so cute. Oh, and she also told me this story about how she helped an old man up when he fell over, and nobody else was going to help him. She was the only one who offered him aid, and he actually sent her a thank you card with his wife's assistant. I just felt so proud of her when I learned about that. And she should be proud of herself for doing something like that too. And a bunch of other stories, like that time she had this anti-drinking and driving thing at her school, and she was actually kind of disturbed by a lot of the stuff that was showcased. Like, they made it very realistic, and I just wanted to just make her feel comfortable and not have to worry about that kind of stuff. And I've always gone out of my way to make sure that she was okay. There was this one time where she wasn't sure where her mom was because she wasn't returning her calls because she was out with a friend or something. She was just gone longer than her mother said she would be, and I stayed with her the whole night. I stayed up with her in that Skype call, assuring her that her mother was okay and that she would be coming back soon. And that's exactly what she did. I just wanted to reassure her that she didn't have anything to worry about, but I also knew that she shouldn't have been left alone at a time like that, so I just wanted to make sure that she was kept company and that she wasn't going into any panic attacks. And even then, she has a couple of pets that keep her company too, and they've had their own stories. Her pets are actually a lot of fun for me to hear about. Whenever they're in the room with her, whenever they do something silly, whenever she talks about them, her cats and her dogs, they're always nice to listen about. Especially this one named Elsie, a female dog, who's been with Leah practically her entire life. Like, Leah is 17 and Elsie is 16. She's been with her from the very beginning, practically. She has this cyst on her arm, and it hasn't gotten very good in the last couple of years. But procedures have been taken to make sure that her cyst is taken care of and that it doesn't get affected, and I can understand that Leah is especially close to Elsie. I always talk about how Elsie is going to be okay, and that she's a tough dog, but I am a little bit worried for her, and for Elsie too. I know that Elsie has been a part of her life from the start, and it's made Elsie a big part of her life, because she is a good dog, and she deserves to be with Leah for much longer. I mean, I remember this one time I was at a panel, and there was the guy who voiced Fry from Futurama, and I remember he said that our pets, whether they're cats or dogs, they're something that we want living with us for our lifetime, and it's just not possible because they don't have the same span as humans. Like, I have my own dogs, and I know they're not gonna be with me until I'm, like, 50. So I just want to feel like that whatever happens, that my dogs and Leah's dogs, including Elsie, are able to spend a lot more time with us than we think they would be able to. I don't even think it's a fool's wish. I think it's quite possible that our dogs can live, like, very long lives, longer than we could expect. And we will always appreciate the time that we have spent with them, regardless of how long they're here. I usually try to not think about the hardship that the two of us go through, and I want to focus on us having a good time, like we did at the aquarium. It was the first time we ever met in person, and it was one of the best days I've ever had in my life. At least I, was taking so many pictures and video footage. I literally made a mini-series about it a while back. And aside from that, we had a lot of fun together. We watched a 4D SpongeBob mini-movie. We saw a whole bunch of aquatic life. We saw the dolphin show. I accidentally committed a crime in which I broke a vase. I offered to pay for it, but they said, no, you don't have to worry about paying for it. It happens all the time. So how often do those have to be replaced? It was just such an unexpected turn of events for the both of us that we were able to see each other in person. And when we first saw each other, like, we ran up to each other, and I think we gave each other the happiest hug we've ever had. I was just so happy and enthusiastic to see her, and she was just as enthusiastic as I was. And it turns out that we were actually a lot more awkward in real life, more so than we previously thought. We spent a whole bunch of time joking around, being good to each other, having fun, and when it was all over and it was time for us to go, I had my mom take a picture of us, and right before she had to go into her cab with her mother and George, she just ran up to me and gave me a really sweet goodbye hug. I can tell that it was hard for her to feel like she was going separate ways with me, because she knows just as much as I that I have honestly become a really big part of her life. So much so that one time when we were talking on Skype, she asked me, "How do you think I would feel if the two of us never met?" And I could honestly never imagine my life without Leah. Like, I never wanted to feel like that would be a possibility. I told her that. And I told her that my life literally has more meaning because she's in it. Because I ended up coming across her. She started happy crying. She said that she hadn't happy cried that hard in years. And she told me it was the nicest thing that anyone ever told her. And she was always saying that she never wanted me to leave her. Because she's had a lot of friends that have broken ties with her, and she was worried that I would be a possibility at some point. She would always be worried about the possibility that I'd leave, and she'd even tell it to me. And I'd always tell her I would never leave her for anything, because it would not be worth losing a person who I've made such a difference in their lives. I have literally made a difference in Leah's life. Like, if it wasn't for me, I think she would be very, very antisocial and lonely, and she wouldn't have worked up the courage to get her new boyfriend. And I think she made a difference in my life too. Like, I would probably be a lot more antisocial and not very talkative. The two of us give each other meaning, and I honestly don't know. I don't want to think about how different my life would be without her, because I know that will never happen. And no matter what happened, I always did everything I could to make time for her. Every single night that I could, I would go up to her on Skype and ask her how her boyfriend was doing, how her day was, how was school, any kind of question that I would think about asking her just to know how great her day was. And whenever something great happened with her, whether it was getting good grades in school or whether it was getting her driver's permit, I was always so proud of her. She is doing way better at school than I ever was. And every night, when I have to go, she would be sad, because she always wants to spend time with me, and she always wants me to be there for her. But I would always tell her that I would come back later. I would tell her to get a good night's sleep and to have a great day at school. We'd have this little fight over who loves the other more, and sometimes she'd win, sometimes I'd win. But the bottom line is, I always look forward to the times that I end the call while she's happy. Honestly, I worry about her in the same way that I've worried about Mint, probably a little bit too much. There was this one time that I literally panicked after I said something stupid around her, and she was making updates like she was done. I was scared shitless that something that I did could have ended up crippling her emotionally. I was trying to reach her. I was doing everything that I could to get to her. I literally went into like one of my Skype chats that she was in, and I was telling everyone to please do what you could to contact her. I was just going out of my way to spread this message like for the last 5 minutes. And then I heard from someone that she was okay after she was finished going through the reaction to what I said, which was stupid. And I was willing to finish talking to her before I was rudely interrupted by my sister. And Leah was asking this person to tell me that she wasn't ready to face me because Leah knew that I would be like, "You scared the shit out of me." Honestly, I can't blame her. I do worry about her a lot, in the same way that I worry about Mint. but I worry about her because I really, deeply care about Leah. I care about her because of how much of a difference I really have made in her life, and how great she makes me feel knowing that I am living my life and being a good person in someone else's. I don't want to lose her, and I really cannot imagine the possibility of that ever happening. I know she's a tough cookie, but I know that it's also been hard. She's been through so many misfortunes and unfair events, people in her family passing away, having to put up with that shithole of a boyfriend who took her trust and crushed it, which has practically led to a lot of confidence issues that she has now. I swear if I could just find out where that asshole lives, I'd punch him in the face. And here comes that thought. I feel like every time I think about Leah and Emmely, I fear that I actually worry about how Emmely must feel that I spend so much time with Leah. Is she jealous that I spend so much time with Leah? Is it that she thinks that Leah is more important to me than her? I don't want her to think that. As I said earlier, no matter who I spend time with, regardless of who it is and regardless of how long it is, they are both equally important to me. And the reason I think that they're both equally important to me is because the one thing they have in common is that they don't have a dad. Emily's just left, and he hasn't bothered to spend time with Emmely, so she's decided to cut him out of her life, and I wouldn't blame her because a father should take opportunities to spend time with their daughter. And Leah, she lost her father in that stupid fire. And she does have a stepdad who has been helping to provide for her and Leah's mother, and Leah and her stepdad get along very well. She even calls him Dad instead of thinking of him as a stepfather. But even then, I know how hard it feels to lose her biological father. Neither of them have their birth fathers, and with the time that I have spent with them, and everything that I went through to make sure that they were happy and okay and not trapped in this ball of depression, making every sacrifice that I could to spend time with them when I could have just as easily spent time playing a video game or finishing up my review or recording for something. I gave up that time because I decided to give them that time. You'd swear that I was like a father to them. I go through all the motions. I even go through that. I'm worried that one of them will get into arguments with the other, saying, you think all of that just because he likes you best? No. I don't want that. It's true. Both Leah and Emmely, both artistic passion and mint heart, I think of them as my own daughters. I literally think of them as my children. I feel like their father. I know that I could never replace their actual fathers, but I just want to be one to them, because I know that because they don't have their fathers with them, they need someone to fill that void, and I've been doing everything I could to fill it. I know it's silly and that I might be too psychologically attached to them as a result, but after everything the three of us have been through, after all the time I've spent with them, every single time I hear them laughing or giggling or knowing that they have a smile on their face, Every time they have a happy reaction to something I type to them on Google or Skype or YouTube, every single time I see them with an optimistic spirit, or even hear them with an optimistic spirit in their voices and their tone, every single time I feel like I'm doing something that's making them happy, knowing about everything that they've been through. I wonder, my God, is this what it's like? Is this what it feels like to be a father? I obviously don't have kids, and honestly, I don't really plan to. But I don't think I need children in order to understand what it's like trying to raise them the only way that I can, giving them advice, helping them through their sad episodes, doing just something to make them happy, or to make them feel better, to feel like they matter, to feel like life has meaning. I just don't want to lose either of them. And I don't want either of them to ever get into fights or to think less of the other, because the truth is, I actually think of them as sisters. Sisters who have nice chats on Skype, who have nice chats on DeviantArt, and no matter what arguments that they may get into, they're still going to be sisters to each other. No matter what they disagree on, they have this very special bond, and I think that bond was created through me. The three of us will always be one. And I am willing to do whatever it takes to keep it that way. And I just know that Leah, Emmely, you have been watching this whole video, and I could tell that at some point you may have cried or gotten too emotional, but I want you to know to never, ever let the sadness get to you. And it's okay to happy cry, because it's a way of expressing that you're happy that I'm in your life. And you never have to worry about how you may be a burden to me, because you're not. Neither of you are. Even if you have your episodes and they make you have sad responses to what I have to say. And regardless of what happens in the future, I will make sure that the three of us always stay connected. Because if there is anything that I have learned in the time that I have known both of you, it's that we're not just born into families. We can also find them, just like we found each other. And you need to know that I love you both, no matter what. And I want you to know that you never have to feel inferior to anyone, because you are both very special people. And I can safely say that my life is significantly more meaningful because I met both of you. So, until the next time we get together on Skype, have a great day. I don't want to make this any longer than it already is, so I'm just gonna wrap it up. Just both of you, take it easy on yourselves. Never feel sad. Always keep your heads up. And, like my grandpa said, do whatever you can to make tomorrow better than today. Leah, Emmely, Artistic Passion, Mintheart, thank you. Thank you for being in my life. I will never be able to repay you for the happiness and meaning that you have given me, but I can at least continue to be there for both of you. And I always will. Again, I love you both. Have a great day, and always, always be good to each other. I'll see you later.